founder of Turning Point says the pandemic has stagnated things somewhat at the organization. Director of Hospitality for the PBB says we need to start thinking outside of the box. And Minister of Education meets with all the subsidized school boards. Those are the headlines for Wednesday, September the 30th, 2020. Good evening, viewers. This is SXM Daily News. I am Valerie from Putin. And as usual, we have a packed newscast for you this evening, so let's get started. In our first story, Minister of Education, the Honorable Rodolphe Samuel, along with the Division of Public Education, met with all subsidized school boards on Tuesday, September the 29th, to discuss matters of COVID-19 and education continuity, as well as a distance learning update. The minister gave the update at this morning's Council of Ministers weekly press briefing.
The Department and Division of the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports met with all subsidized school boards and the Division of Public Education yesterday to discuss matters related to COVID-19 and education continuity. During the meeting, which lasted about 3 hours, parties were provided with a distance learning update. School boards were also provided with a status update in regards to education continuity. Although the current spread of the virus is not what we would like it to be at this moment, a decision regarding vulnerable students and the students in exam classes will be made and communicated to school boards by next week. All students within primary education of both public and subsidized schools, whose schools management have indicated are without a device to facilitate distance learning, will receive a device by the end of this week. That is all primary school students who have indicated such. The Windward Island Teachers Union has met with the Department of Education last week and have requested a meeting with my person, and a meeting is being planned to meet with the Windward Islands Teachers Union.
And Minister of Public Health, Labor and Social Affairs, the Honorable Richard Parnafleck, has addressed several issues at this morning's Council of Ministers weekly press briefing, including the latest number of COVID-19 active cases. The minister also broached the glucose monitoring meter issue at this morning's press briefing.
As of yesterday, September 29, 14 additional persons have tested positive for COVID-19. 8 persons recovered, bringing the total active cases to 80. The total number of confirmed cases is now 659. 3 patients remain hospitalized at the St. Martin Medical Center, and 1 patient is isolated and being monitored. The number of deaths due to COVID-19 remains 22. Of the active cases, CPS are monitoring 76 people in home isolation. The number of people recovered since the first case surfaced on St. Martin has increased to 557. 196 people are in quarantine based on contact tracing investigation. To further control the spread of virus, CPS has tested 1,041 travelers arriving at the Princess Juliana Airport and 2,710 people through the community. Please note that we have retrospectively received negative results from the lab of 702 persons who were tested, which caused a sharp increase in the number of persons tested through the community. Lately, it's being reflected in the figures reported by CPS that persons are not coming forward to report their COVID status. We are urging the public to come forward and report to your general practitioner or call CPS at emergency number 914 and report if you have any symptoms which might be related to COVID-19. Furthermore, I would like to inform the public that as of yesterday, the COM have approved for the program concerning expansion of the CPS personnel that is very much needed with the situation of the COVID and in further preparation for St. Martin when it continue opening its board for the tourist industry. Also, the EISTP training program executed by the SMTF is also granted so that it can continue for the training program of persons that have lost a job and be better prepared for the future. The Inspectorate of VSA also has been instructed to conduct several investigations and to report back to me. One of these investigations is the much heard about in the media about the glucosometer. As soon as the report is finalized and brought back to me, I will inform the general public.
And as we continue now with our hospitality series this week with members of the Phillipsburg Promotional Board, Hospitality Director for the Phillipsburg Promotional Board, Mr. Paul Bouticase, speaking to our news department regarding getting Front Street back on track. Mr. Bouticase says that what they are faced with right now is the renters issue and businesses not being able to not only pay their rent, but pay their staff as well. Mr. Bouticase says that what we need to do now is think outside of the box.
Well, what we're faced with right now is, and Val, of course, has this problem as well, is that we have a lot of renters that, they cannot pay their rent. And it's not even with the rent, because we even offer some of our renters no rent at all.
Right, yeah.
But they telling me, but Paul, we cannot keep open that way because I still have to pay my staff. So I'm giving it basically away for free. I know there's no business and there's nothing happening in Front Street right now. And especially September has always been a very difficult month, obviously. But in the summer we had a little bit of people from the French side coming in. But then they closed the border. So they were not coming either. So that was not, I understand all that, we don't want to go into the politics of it, but it was hard. And so now we don't have much business, but Val released the article about, having staff from the cruise ships. If they do a PCR test on board of the ships, they could come on land, maybe. Maybe the cruise ships are afraid that they'll pick up COVID here, but at least they could come on land and spend some money here. And that's actually happening right now. So we were just talking about it.
Right.
Yeah. So we're seeing the small little changes if we all work together, and are we also receptive of our ideas? And then I think we can create something magical in Phillipsburg. And so to come back to the point of renters, so they cannot pay it anymore, and it's a lot of hardship that's going on. And I really hope that we all together in a resilient way can make it to the finish line when things can go better. But one of our plans is to say, okay, you know what? Well, right now we had Irma,
Right?
then they had it hard, then we have COVID,
Yeah.
and we will get something else again. There will be either another hurricane again, or there will be another world war somewhere, so we have to think about out of the box kind of concept. So one of the things that we probably will be doing is we have one renter that is leaving, unfortunately, after 40 years, and it's hard. It's really hard. And I said, just stay. I don't need any money from you. Just stay. Keep the shop open. And he said, I can't even make it like that. So it's better for him just to take everything off, and that you don't have any staff on the payroll. So it's your decision eventually, but it's sad. So. But then we can find a new renter. But then there's 70 or 100 shops available in town. So it's like, oh, what are we going to do now? And I'm a little bit pickier sometimes. I don't want anybody renting that space. So we said, you know what? I'm going to hire an interior designer. I'm going to make that a beautiful shop. So I'm going to start raising the bar. And the idea is, and I hope that everybody starts doing that we start raising the bar, get new things in Phillipsburg. Yes. Look at the problems that we have faced with in the past, and one of the things, of course, and I didn't know that. No, maybe you knew that one of the problems that Phillipsburg had is that when the airlines started charging more for their luggage, for the bags, that people actually started shopping less.
Okay.
I never realized it, but
it
apparently
makes sense,
that makes sense. So big things and big, people used to buy loads of T-shirts and put it in the suitcases because American Airlines didn't really charge extra for it.
Right.
But they have, things have changed in the world, and they start, charging for that. So that's why people buy a lot less heavier bulk stuff.
And still to come, Member of Parliament for the U.S. Party wants to know, does the government tie themselves on to the position of the State Secretary? We'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
Welcome back, viewers. You're watching SXM Daily News, and I'm Valerie Van Putten. At the continuation of the parliamentary public meeting from September the 25th that was reconvened last Monday, September the 28th, 2020, to discuss the focus audit done by the General Audit Chamber of St. Martin in May of 2020, referencing the reconstruction funds for St. Martin, MP Sarah Westcott Williams posed a question to the Minister of General Affairs, Prime Minister the Honorable Sylvia Jacobs. The Member of Parliament for the UD wanted to know if the Prime Minister had the opportunity to inquire as to what the proposal is for the 8th working of the Accountability Ordinance at the Council of Advice.
Mr. Chairman, the Prime Minister, firstly, thank you, Prime Minister, for your answers provided and also for addressing some parts of the motion. I don't know, Prime Minister, if you will had a chance to inquire as to what the proposal is for the changes to the uitwerking of the accountability ordinance in Albeham that is currently at the Council of Advice. I asked about that. I don't know if since the last meeting you had an opportunity to ascertain what those proposed policies are regarding public procurement. So if the Prime Minister can maybe go into that if possible. And secondly, Mr. Chairman, the Prime Minister referred to a list that she received regarding how money trickled down, as I call it, to the local economy by means of contracts awarded to local companies. And the Prime Minister quoted from a document that she received. Can that document be shared? Again, Mr. Chairman, like the Prime Minister, I am not interested in whether it was company A, B, C, or D, but rather I would like to see numbers and figures. So X amount of money to construction companies here locally, X amount of money. I would like to see where exactly the money that has trickled down to the local economy, how that happened. Mr. Chairman, if these two matters can be clarified by the Prime Minister, I would be grateful for that. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Member of Parliament, the Honourable Claudius Van Camper, again posed another question to the Prime Minister. This time it was about the Red Cross. The Member of Parliament wanted to know, does the government tie themselves on to the position of the State Secretary? Do we allow illegal homes that was constructed to be rebuilt? Because that is what seems to be happening now. Because it seems that by allowing them to be built, we are justifying the illegally built homes to become legalized.
Mr. Chairman, my first question to the Prime Minister was if she shared the opinion of the State Secretary that a study needed to be conducted on the operations of the World Bank and the NRPB. I didn't ask if she received any documents because the position of the chair of the State Secretary was made public. Everybody read it. I didn't get a secret document. I read it. So I asked the question, does the government tie themselves onto the position of the State Secretary? That they need to do an investigation to see if it was efficient and effective. And that report will only come back in late 2021. So that's what I asked. I didn't ask if we had gotten documents, and the answer that the government doesn't have documents so it can't study and say anything is not what I asked. I asked if she agreed with his opinion in sharing it, yes or no. It was a yes or no question, actually. The next one, Mr. Chairman, is my question was that I wholeheartedly supported the Red Cross receiving funds and rebuilding roofs. My question was, do we allow illegal homes that were constructed be rebuilt? That's what's happening now. The Red Cross all over the place fixing houses, including illegally built houses in the past. So it's as if we are now, by allowing them to build, we are now justifying the illegally built home to become legalized. That's the question that I'm asking. Not that we give them the proper guidelines on how they should build. I think the Red Cross is well aware of those. My question is a little different. My question is, illegal homes are being reconstructed, and is that allowed?
And then the Prime Minister responded to the questions that was posed to her from the members of Parliament for the United Democrats, Sarah Westcott Williams, and member of the Parliament for the U.S. Party, Claudius Boncamper.
Information required from the Ministry of ROMI. This was based on the questions submitted. What we received pertaining to the way the question was asked. So if there are illegal homes being built, that was not given me, and they didn't give me that information. I can ask the Minister of ROMI to respond to that in writing to the MP if he would like. But I do not have that information at this time. Pertaining to Member of Parliament Sarah Westcott Williams, I was updated by the Minister of ROMI that several months ago, maybe even a year ago, a couple of years ago, there was a senior person from ROMI and Legal Affairs working on a specific document. Both persons have since left the organization, and so it is for us to now research exactly where that is, as I don't believe it was picked back up once they left. The Raad van Advies, the document that was at the draft LBHAM, which was sent to the Raad van Advies a few years back as well, in connection to the subject, was revised and went back to, I believe, the Ministry of Finance, and another report still needs to be drafted to be presented to the Council of Ministers. The Legal Affairs Department is looking at this at the moment as well. In response to or clarification of the question from MP Boncamper related to the study that State Secretary mentioned, he is looking to conduct or is conducting on the operations of the World Bank and the NRPB to determine whether the operations are effective and efficient. I can concur that if a study is to be done, I wouldn't have a problem with such, but it would have to be with the clear understanding, though, that all involved, especially the Netherlands and the World Bank, knew upfront what the procedures were. And it is important that effectiveness and efficiency of the trust fund is investigated, for sure. So if you want a direct answer, yes, but I cannot speak to the specific study or the scope and sequence of such a study. And I would also, before giving my full support to it, would want to ensure that it does not further deplete the fund that is supposed to go towards our resilience. So in that respect, I can clarify that a study as to the effectiveness and efficiency of the spending of funds within our country. We are open and transparent. I have absolutely no problem with it, as long as it does not divert funds again from where we would need it to go, especially in our precarious position at the moment. Mr. Chairman, I don't know, I'm hoping that I clarified specifically pertaining to the statements or the way it was brought forth in the press, what was sent to the second chamber, noting that it was information up until June, July, and that we had updated the steering committee. The Dutch representative in the steering committee is quite aware, and we are finalizing the response to State Secretary Knopp's two questions he had also posed. I believe it was on the 14th, in terms of especially the establishment agreement for the World Bank office and what is being held up, and to clarify that it is strange that questions are being posed by one ministry or the state secretary in one ministry, while the finance ministry in the Netherlands is working together to help us with the fiscal part of the legislation as it regards taxation and the immunity from taxation that does not exist in our laws. So when the investigation is done at the end of the day, it is laws that are not in our island that we need to be able to establish certain things. And in other areas, if you need specific expertise that you do not have, and you get the agreement with the Dutch ministry to get that specific assistance for your organization, then you are assisting us to be able to meet the needs, and therefore how fast or slow we go is also partially your responsibility. So you're working together with us, and together we are working on this. So in that regard, Mr. Chairman, I will ensure that the response from the government is forthcoming and will be shared with Parliament, as well as the other documents that had been requested. I did not get any further update, Mr. Bonkamper, from the VROMI ministry, but with your permission, I can send that on in writing related to any alleged illegal rebuilding.
Now, turning to our weather forecast for September the 30th, 2020, moisture and instability trailing a tropical wave that passed through the region will account for cloudiness, isolated showers, and thunderstorms across the local area today. Thereafter, a round of Saharan dust will enter the region and aid in restricting precipitation across the local area. Seas are expected to peak at 7 feet today. A strengthened Atlantic high-pressure ridge and wind surge associated with another tropical wave approaching the region will generate rough seas from tomorrow. Small craft operators and sea bathers should continue to exercise caution. Advisories may be issued towards the end of the forecast period. So the outlook through Friday morning, partly cloudy, breezy, and hazy with a few isolated showers possible. Now let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, founder of Turning Point says the pandemic has stagnated things somewhat at the organization. We'll have the details of that story and much more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
Welcome back, viewers. And as we continue now with more news for you at this time, the challenges that COVID-19 poses to the various establishments on St. Martin are plenty. And for the Turning Point Foundation, it is no exception. President and founder of the organization is Dr. Lloyd Richardson. Speaking to the Voice of St. Martin's News Department, he said that the pandemic has stagnated things somewhat at the organization. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the foundation had to adapt to new rules in an effort to be able to render optimal service to the community of St. Martin.
Right now, in this island, we are not out of Irma yet, and we are had to face the COVID. Now, for us, to tell you the truth, it has retarded things a whole lot, just like everybody else. You first start by adopting new rules to be able to render optimal service to the community. And even in that, you have to scrutinize those rules very carefully to make sure that they're in line with world standards, World Health Association, and also the local dictates of government. So it has retarded our services pretty much in the sense that, number one, we had to close our doors as government instructed us, but even in trying to open them, we had to make sure that could live up to the standards that exist then. So the first problem was testing. Second problem was quarantining, and how would we be able to do that, and how we would be able to pay for that, because that was pretty expensive too. I learned that it would cost about $120 a day. But what we have done is we have waited until the release of the one client that was in aftercare, and then turned that facility into the quarantining area where we could quarantine at least 2 people at a time. And they stay there, they come in, they're tested for the COVID, etc. If they're negative, we bring them in there, and then they spend 2 to 3 weeks there, and then transfer over to the main building and join the other clients. Mm-hmm. So that has worked pretty good so far. And yes, it meant that the intake possibilities are far more slower than they were before. And so we still have people on the waiting list, and hope that by the next 2 weeks, so we probably would have caught up with at least dealing with some of those that we have had on the list since last year.
And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening, in news out of Curaçao, U.S. missions conducted from the Fall Base in Curaçao in the past year have contributed to the interception of a total of 280,000 kilos of cocaine and another 24,000 kilos of marijuana. This is stated in the report on the annual evaluation of the Forward Operating Locations Treaty, FOL, that the Dutch Minister of Foreign Affairs, Stef Blok, also on behalf of his colleague from Defense, Ank Bijleveld, sent to the Second Chamber of the Dutch Parliament and the governments of Curaçao and Aruba today. The treaty gives the Americans permission to operate flights from Hato Airport in Curaçao and the Reina Beatrix in Aruba for the purpose of surveillance, monitoring, and tracing drug shipments. The flights are conducted unarmed. The kingdom benefits from American air reconnaissance on the basis of which drug shipments can be traced and intercepted. In many cases, the latter is done in collaboration with the Royal Netherlands Navy. Combating the drug problem in the Caribbean region is of global importance, the report said. In the period from October 2018 to September 2019, 385 flights were operated. All flights took place from Curaçao. No flights were operated from Aruba during this period. The total number of flight hours from the fall was 2,583. The collaboration is experienced by everyone as very constructive, the evaluation said. The Fall Treaty between the Kingdom and the United States was entered into in 2001 and has since been extended twice. The current 5-year period ends on November 2nd, 2021. Block reports that the procedure for a new extension has now started. And with that, viewers, concludes this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening. I am Valerie Van Putten, thanking you so much for joining me this evening. And just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you so much for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.